How to stop a coup at your
Well,
company?
I don't know about how to stop it, but I know
Okay.
how to prevent the next one.
Got it.
Yeah. So this happened to me at a company that I ran years ago, a company called Computer Nerds.
Right.
And then it happened again recently. The company that a friend of mine runs, that let's say I consult for in
Sure.
some unofficial capacity, right?
Yeah.
So we had a bunch of people working, at this company, and with Computer Nerds specifically, I can share the gory details because A, it was decade and a half or more ago, and B, who cares? It was mine. I'm not going to share the details of my friend's company because that's not my story to tell. But Computer Nerds was a business where it was like pre-Geek Squad, but that basic concept. We would go out to people's homes and offices and fix their problems or install their printers or, do whatever we needed to do. And at one point, we'd built the business up. We had like 30 nerds out in the field and it was all going well. I was the junior partner in this business.
All right.
But that's fine. Like I knew that going in, like it was fine. I got a piece of the action, but didn't really, I had influence, but not final say over what happened. All good. No problem. About a year and a half into me being involved in this business, my partner, the senior partner, wanted to hire my wife to do all our dispatch. She was like in between jobs. He's like, I think that would be great. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. And we were not husband and wife. We were living together, but not yet married. And I was like, well, if we do this, she's got to report to you. He's like, okay, great.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, well, I needed to learn about,
Sure.
Yeah. And so that all goes on. At that point in time, this is the mid-90s in Austin, people's perception of like a long drive and traffic in general in Austin was, in my estimation, ridiculous. There was the same grocery store every 4 blocks because traveling more than 2 blocks was preposterous. Nobody. Yeah. And so everybody that lived there, at least those people that didn't come from like a suburb of Manhattan where we actually understood what traffic was like, just lived that world. And, we would get calls from various people and businesses, and then we would have to assign them out to our nerds each day and build a route that they would have to drive going from place to place. And oftentimes it was non-optimal because we don't get to pick who makes the phone ring. It's just how it works.
That's right.
Yep. And there was there was one person that wanted the job of dispatcher and understood that there was always going to be some rumblings about like, hey, there's like nothing's ever perfect with management or whatever. And so they led a coup and went to other people and sort of riled people up and wound up creating a scenario where the right solution for the business, everybody was so upset about how things were routing that we had to let our dispatcher go, which was my wife. Yes. So I stepped in at that. My partner and I talked about it and I was like, no, I'll be the one to tell her, like, it's fine. I get it. And so this is the story where I fired my wife. And then a year later we got married. So it all worked out. Yeah. But what I did not realize at the time, and the advice that I have since given to my friend and will give to all of you, is sometimes that happens. And if you don't manage it as it's developing, you might not even know it's developing, then you have to sort of go with momentum. Otherwise, it was lose one person or lose 20, right? At that point.
Yeah, okay.
And so it's like, okay, the business has to do this. Fine. Not optimal, not how this should have developed, not how I would have liked it to develop, but it developed, and here's where we are today. Okay. What I did not do, and then had to do 6 months later, what I did not do was also fire the coup leader. I should have. I needed to fire my wife. Fine. Understood. Yep. It's how it works. She got it, like, eventually. It wasn't the easiest conversation the two of us have ever had.
We're going to have on the show next week. And
that's right. Actually, that'd be really interesting. She and I haven't talked about that in a while. But I have hired her since then for other businesses. So, anyway. But what I should have also done in that moment was said, okay, I'm aware you have, all of you have this concern. This person's not doing the job the way they needed to do it. I need to fix this. So we've let that person go. We are going to install someone else in this position. Maybe in the short term, it's me. Whatever that needs to be, some emergency thing while we find the right person. But I also need to make it clear that this is not the way to do things here.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I am also letting that person go. The rest of you are totally fine, but that person created this scenario, went to all of you and did this, and that's not okay. So when you have a coup, you sometimes have to go along with it, but you also fire the coup leader as close to, if not simultaneously with whatever else, in terms of damage control needs to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough situation.
I know. Oh, trust me, I know.
Very, very tough. And I've had similar things like that happen where people, you get a group of people together, and they come forward, and this is the way it should be, or this person. And I agree, it isn't the way that if you're aware of it, and maybe you hear grumblings and don't do anything about it, that's one thing. But if they come drop this bomb on you, like we've all decided, my always is like, hey, this is not a democracy.
Nope.
It's not even a republic. We are.
No, but they could all leave.
I get that. Yes.
You got to protect that.
Yeah,
yep.
You don't want them to leave, but
right.
At the same time, you're like, hey, great. I appreciate your feedback. And let's talk about, what controls can we put in place to maybe address this in versus such a drastic way of, is it really the fault of an individual, or is it the fault of the system that we're using, the procedures that we have, the policies? You got to really look at it. I hate firing people, but it's a fail. I always say, when you have to fire someone, it's a total failure of management.
Oh, absolutely.
You've hired the wrong person, or you didn't train them the right way, or you have the wrong systems or policies, procedures in place.
No, and it was the latter with this. Yeah. I was aware that people were unhappy at times with the routing, but it was like, well, this is how it be. Yeah. Like, this is the nature of the job.
Yes.
So
exactly.
we do our best, and we understand that it's not great to have somebody go north-south all day. And we certainly try not to do that. But to have you stay in the same neighborhood where you could park your car once and walk from call to call, that ain't the gig, buddy.
Yeah, that's not the gig.
And my problem was, I was also coming from a suburb of Manhattan where it was like, you people don't know from traffic. Nowadays, Austin actually has some traffic. But back then, no way. No way. Yeah. So
it is interesting. And I think that as business owners, we're conditioned to constantly be solving problems and becoming more comfortable with doing that over time, where you're just like, well, this is just the job. I'm solving problems all day. No problems, no business. Where perhaps from, an employee perspective, it's more of, this is not my problem. We have to, we have to solve this, and pushing it out there rather than thinking this is a problem for our business. Maybe we could come up with a different way this is handled and propose it as a problem solution versus let's get rid of that person because they're, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, I was young. I mean, it was, the first time I'd ever dealt with anything like this. I mean, whatever, it's all good. Everybody survived. Like it's
good. But there is I loved having big teams of people working for us, and sometimes it just drove me nuts. And people. I used to joke and say, if we didn't have employees and customers, man, this would be an amazingly easy job.
Yeah, but you'd have to do all the work yourself, and that's also not feasible.
Not
so
not optimal. Yeah. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that story.